paper route money. That's what I had to do. Hey, we're on live right now, it says.
Music's playing. Can you hear it?
No.
I don't know how you can't hear it.
Well, I guess it's not playing here.
It's on your shirt. FTC, what's that mean?
I don't know. It's free.
Free TC?
I don't know what it is. I got a whole lot of free shirts. A lot of them I've never even worn.
Hey, we're on live, Rip. This is what I used to say, Friday, May 30th, 2025.
Greatest day ever.
Rip Rogers, Ask Him Live, Wrestling with Rip Rogers. Here we are live. Get the free t-shirt on.
Yeah.
Audio and video is good, 70QQ says.
Oh, well, shit, we know that right away. Shit, I've been listening to the Screaming Baboon all day. You know.
Oh yeah, what are you guys talking about?
Oh, he's just, he's busy being over, and he was talking about all the different kind of how do you call it, minorities or whatever that in his gym, and how they're after him all the time for stuff, and he intimidates them, and he's over, and he's got the big arm, and
he's a bully, huh?
Huh?
He's a bully?
Yeah, I think he's a bully. I guess he's got 22-inch biceps, and the girls say he's got a hell of a hammer on him, so I guess he must be pretty over.
Total Pack 10 in the house. T-Pack in the house, he says. He stole that from Weasel. Frank's Pickle Barrel in the house. Hello, homies, hoes, whores, pimps, and limps.
Okay, and gimps.
And gimps. Billy Ray Dollar in the house. T-Pack and Frank in green. Patrick Young in green, ready for class. George Jessen from out of space. Big George in the house in green. This is the best show I've waited on today.
Yeah, well, they're stealing our gimmick.
T Weasel in the house.
Oh, don't mention his name.
Said he's doing a little grocery shopping today.
Yeah, he needs to he wants to just eat some of them hot dogs on the back of his neck and he'd be fine.
Mom told him to go to the store.
I bet he's never bought his groceries for his mom in his life. I bet he eats all hers and everybody else's, and all the hot women in Seymour's, the Weasels, the card playing legend, just hanging out, looking good, shaving that when he shaves that head, when he shaves it short, then you can see the bull neck on him. Looks like he's been doing bridges all of his life.
Hey, speaking of Weasel, I think I saw where they lost in the sectional. He's the big baseball coach at Trinity Lutheran in Seymour. I think they lost. What happened, Weasel? How'd you guys lose? They lost to Rising Sun, I think it was. What happened? Blame whose fault was it? I know it wasn't yours. Whose fault was it?
Weasel's Mr. Positivity.
He said he's buying.
He's buying?
Yeah, you said he doesn't buy the groceries. He said he's buying today.
Oh.
Gregory Mala in the house. Clayton in green in the house. Beard looking tough, Rip.
Yeah, it's called Too Lazy to Shave. Sick of paying $1.25 for all them razor blades.
Oh, you think you look cool.
I know I look cool, but it's disgusting. I mean, when the hair, you're trying to eat something, I got to trim it like that with the skizzers. If not, I'm eating the beard when I'm eating.
Well, look who's here today, Rip.
I don't know. I can't see. Who is it? Holy shit. Center of the board, baby. What's he? Shit, Will.
He said, let's get it started. Hey, Rip, how hot was Georgia Championship Wrestling in the late 70s and early 80s?
Well, it was the place to go, because most places at that time didn't really have cable TV. And the only thing you could really get on, you could see for some reason. Now they got every kind of cable station there is and stuff like that. But I could get the Dick the Bruiser wrestling at home, and I could get the Nick Goulas wrestling at home with the regular antenna. And then finally, you could get the Georgia Championship Wrestling. So Georgia Championship Wrestling was looked upon as the big time of pro wrestling, because the WF, they just had regular markets, just like ICW, just like Jarrett's territory, Nick Goulas's, etc. So, yeah, if you was on Georgia Championship Wrestling, you was over big time because it was the old nationwide gimmick. Because I remember Randy got mad at me, and his dad got mad at me because I was on cable before Randy was. I said, well, God damn, what the fuck?
Now you're on cable. Was that Georgia?
Okay, I got cut off. Now you're
You
back.
said you were on cable before Randy. Was that in Georgia or where was that?
Yeah, it was Georgia. It was when Ole was on Channel 17.
So was that like a goal? Was it like, oh man, we got to get to Georgia Championship Wrestling?
Well, I mean, it was. You knew that if Von Linus got on Georgia Championship Wrestling and stayed on there about a year, and everybody in the world seen you, you're already a worldwide superstar. So you're in demand and stuff, and they'll be contacting you, or you contacting them to say, oh yeah, and you just come in for the big shows. When they had all the territories, you'd be treated. That's how Tommy Rich got over so good. He was on Superstation for long, and then Watts would bring him in for the big shows. Fritz would bring him in. Don Owen would bring him in. All the old territories would bring you in because you were like the super duper star on the Superstation, Channel 17. So no matter who,
it was hot.
Yeah. And so what Vince do? Well, he bought the stage. He took over their time slot, right? He wasn't stupid.
Yeah, I just heard Cornette. I don't think it was a new one, but Cornette was talking about the Junkyard Dog, and when he was in, when Vince was buying everything, he said Dog was in the locker room. It wasn't Cornette that hurt him, but somebody. Dog was in the locker room one week saying, we got to stand up to Vince and all this stuff. And then the next week, Dog was gone.
Yeah.
Not like he was with Vince. So one week he was telling the boys, we gotta stand up to Vince. And then the next week he wasn't even there anymore. He was with Vince.
Well, we gotta unite against Vince unless Vince says, hey, Dog, I know how over you are. You'll be my superstar for especially when we're down south. Yeah. So you can't get mad at Dog for making money, but if you got to stand up to Vince, do it unless he calls you. In that case, I'll go the easier way, and it's all me and you, Vince, all the way, baby.
Thank you, center of the board. Get us started off right. Hey, last week we sent $200 to Greg Smith. I sent it to him right away, right when this show was over. So Greg Smith was very, very appreciative of everybody's support for last week. So thanks for that. That was a good show. A lot of good questions, a lot of good super chats. Shane Parks in the house with a $4 super sticker. Shane, get your question there. Oh, there it is down here. Oops. What's that say? Damn, everyone got the welfare checks early. Ever wrestled Bryant St. John? Rip. You know Bryant St. John? I don't know him.
No, Brian St. John. That was no. I'm trying to think of the St. John.
Bryant is what he.
I don't know who that is. Then
Shane Parks. Give us the hint. Did he ever wrestle somebody else? Where's he from? Do we know him? I don't know that we know him. Center of the board. We'll come back to you, Shane Parks. Center of the board. $10 super chat. How hot was the Omni in Atlanta as a venue for wrestling in the South?
Well, the Omni was like considered as the Madison Square Garden of the South. Like you could get 18,000 people in there years ago. And when I was for Ole, and then Crockett took over, I was in the main event against Tommy Rich in the Omni, and that was big time. So that was a hell of a memory. But the Mecca, the Madison Square Garden, was considered the biggest indoor arena that they ever had the wrestling at. And what they do, when they would sell it out, then they go across the street to closed circuit, and they had it in the it was called pay-per-views then, or whatever it was, but you could watch it like a movie theater in there. So a lot of times before they would have the big setups where they would have all these stages and stuff. It would be like 19,588 seats there, and you would sell all those out. But now you might go to Madison Square Garden and it only seats 10,000 because they got all these stage setups and everything.
All right, I'm trying to find. Good question, good answer. I'm trying to find Brian St. John here, a picture of him or something. Googling it. The old Google rip.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a blonde-headed fellow. Let me see if I can share this screen real quick. Present. Share screen. Brian St. John. Can you see this guy over here?
Yeah, I see him about 1/8 of an inch.
Oh yeah.
Did he wrestle? Did he wrestle in Dallas?
I don't know. Inquiring minds. Oh yeah, I guess he's that guy over there on the right there. I don't know.
That's what
I didn't do a very good job of sharing that. Brian. So I guess it was Brian. Yeah, not Bryant. I don't know. I'm waiting on Shane Parks to comment again on it. Patrick Young, get a question in there. Patrick Young with the $4.99 super sticker rip. Awful nice. Thank you, Patrick Young. Center of the board, another $10 super chat here. Hey, Rip, can you move your phone back the way it was a little bit ago to where we can see you a little bit? Like tilt it up a little bit. There we go. Yeah.
I'm just going to fall down a minute. Okay.
Well, with that attitude, it is. Let's get a bit better attitude, Rip. Have you ever known a wrestler to win a battle royal for money and actually keep the check, a la Austin Idol?
Yeah, Austin Idol was famous for doing that. Fred Ward was I think it was either Macon or Columbus, Georgia, one or the other, because Fred had both those towns. But he won the battle royal, and it was made out. They would actually have a check signing and everything. So he just stayed over and went to the bank next day. And I don't know what it was, because, when the wrestlers tell a story, it'll change all the time. It might have been $3,000, $5,000 battle royal. And then Idol just went it and took it to the bank and said, yeah, Austin Idol, this and that, my real name. Here's the clip in the paper that says I won the battle royal and stuff like that. So they cashed the check and gave it to him.
No way. Really?
Yeah, he ended up getting fired over it. But then he was such a draw. They said they was going to take some out each week of his pay, but who knows if they did or not. But no, I heard that story years ago.
Wow.
And it was, and I asked Idol about it. He just chuckled.
Have you ever heard of anybody else doing it?
No, I think everybody in the wrestling world smartened up all the other promoters once it happened that one time.
My favorite was when Coco Ware won the Battle Royal in Memphis.
Uh-huh.
I think it was on TV, and he won like a new color TV, baby.
And somebody come and who smashed
him? Jimmy came out and congratulated him, and then threw it on the ground and shattered it everywhere.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I felt so bad for Coco.
Yeah, we used to have things like in ICW in every territories. It'd be like they'd have a Cadillac tournament or whatever. And if somebody was buying a new car, you'd tell the promoter, and then you'd have a Cadillac tournament for whoever wins the Cadillac or whatever. So maybe Honky Tonk would win the Cadillac, because he was buying one really. So then they would go.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But it would always draw real well. And like if I worked 3 times to get to the finals, you get paid for each time you went in the ring. So that was great. And then the promoter would give you like an extra $500 because you're buying the car, and he wouldn't have had a real good night unless you done that. So that was cool.
Man, that's so smart. I've never heard of that. I never even thought of that.
Well, that's just like Ron Fuller had the famous boat tournament, but it went on for weeks. And Ronnie Garvin won the boat tournament, and this is when him and Malenko and Bob Orton Jr. group, but they was against Fuller this was in the Knoxville territory. So Fuller tried to sue him, and they took him to court. And they got it boiled down to was Ronnie Garvin the winner of the boat tournament? Yes, Honor, he was. It doesn't matter if it was prearranged or not. He was the winner of the boat tournament, so he gets to keep it. So Garvin, when he was at ICW, he lived on the river someplace, wherever the hell it was, but he lived on the boat there. But that was so all this shit that's went on, and it's been passed down, and what really went on, it's probably changed by every time somebody listens to it. But that's a hell of a story.
That's awesome. Good question, center of the board. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I did forget to ask 70QQ. Rip, why don't you just use that thing I bought you for your phone?
Well, you got to ask me again next week too.
I mean, right now all we see is your nose. If we could, that's all we see is your chin and your nose.
Okay.
No adjustment.
Okay. How many times do I have to tell you I don't have it with me? And I'm not gonna have it with you. You can ask me again next week as a rib.
It's because you told me you couldn't figure it out. You couldn't figure out how to operate.
Well, I couldn't figure it out.
It's already put together. You just set your phone here. That's how hard it is to figure out, right there. Where are we at here? 1979, Brian St. John was known as rookie heel tag team partner of Stanley Lane as the Blonde Bombers in Florida. Brian St. John also worked Georgia in 1981, Big George said.
Okay. Well, at least Big George is on it. Big George is good. He's a history man. He'll be Googling all that shit.
I don't know. So Patrick Young gave us $4.99 super sticker. Says, hope all is well. My question would be, how were you approached to join Smoky Mountain?
Cornette called me up. He said, hey, Rip, it's Cornette. He says, hey, can you come in and work some dates for me? I said, yeah. I said, when are they? He told me when they were. I said, well, I was supposed to be in Atlanta, but that day, I said, I'd rather work for you because it's more fun. And I made less money. But I didn't give a shit. I just wanted to do it and have it on tape where you're at different places. I remember working Paul Orndorff there when I was with Jimmy. So I was Smoky Mountain was fun. And then Atlanta, they were sort of mad at me because I said, well, wait a minute, I won't talk bad about you or nothing. I'm just going to go and do whatever I fucking do. Because at the same time I was working in Global, and in Global, that's where I was pushed heavily. So you're pushed heavily one place, the next place you're not pushed, and then you go to another place just for the hell of it. When they're in control, they love it, but when you want to do something on your own, then they get mad about it. But what the hell?
Okay, the Lila sisters want to come on and say hi real quick.
All right.
Come on, hurry up.
Hey, look at that.
Hi.
What's up?
Hi.
They watch Brawl. They watch AEW. They said they were going to give a report today, but now I think they're a little too embarrassed. So
no,
I don't think they're going to anymore. You don't? Okay. Well. All right. Beat it, girls. Go clean the house. Shut the door. Rip cusses too much.
They just turned on to AEW. They wanted to see Turbo and Floyd.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Gregory Mola, $1.99 super chat. Crusher Fest this weekend. Any good Crusher stories? Is this Crusher Broomfield?
No. The Crusher Fest is a thing they have in Milwaukee because Reggie Lasowski, who was the Crusher and Bruiser's kayfabe cousin, he was billed as the man who made Milwaukee famous. So I think they got a statue in Milwaukee of the great Reggie Lisowski, the Crusher. That's so funny because him and Bruisers, they sort of look like clones, sort of built the same, and had the ice white hair and everything. And whenever the Crusher would come in to wrestle Indianapolis, he'd just jump on the Greyhound bus from Milwaukee. He didn't want to drive, so he'd just take the bus down, the bus back.
Wow. Awesome. Thanks, Gregory Mala. Big George threw out a $1.99 super sticker. Thank you, George. Send aboard $5 super chat. Under old school philosophy, for the longest, Roddy Piper refused to love Hulk Hogan. Was he right?
No, it's supposed to be lose to Hulk Hogan.
For the refused to lose to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, you got to proofread your stuff. When I type it out, then all of a sudden I push go or whatever, and half the words they're not spelled
Maybe
right.
he meant love. Hey, this is center of the board now. Don't be telling him to spell check. He's throwing out a lot of loot today. Let's let him spell shit how he wants to.
Okay, he refused to love to Hulk Hogan. Well,
okay, answer it both. Should he have loved him, and should he lost to him?
Well, Piper wasn't going to let Hogan squash him, and Hogan was so much bigger. But Piper, he had that goddamn mouth, and Piper knew how to protect himself. But Hogan he had that rocket ship strapped to his ass, and he was going to beat everywhere. But Piper got a lot of money by just stringing it along for a long time. Of course, everybody wanted to see it. So you don't give it to them. You wait and you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait. So Pipes always had a good run.
They never wrestled, did they?
Not to any extent, I don't think.
So what about Piper? Like, I mean, I don't want to bash Piper, but I mean, he was not ever the biggest guy, the most muscular guy. Why couldn't he lose to Hogan? Or why did he think he shouldn't lose to Hogan?
He had the gift of gab, and no matter where he worked, after the first couple of years, he was used on top, and he would be the top draw for everybody. It didn't matter what he looked like. No, Hogan was the problem. The problem was, how do you have a 300-pound baby face? You're just stupid. No, you need a baby face to be 230 so that the heel should be a whole lot bigger. So the baby face, of just looking at the physicality of it, looking at their numbers, the baby face is the underdog. Hell, Hogan he looked like a power lifter against a welterweight.
That's my point. Why wouldn't he lose to him then?
Well, you could do that, but then again, see, if you were as a heavyweight champion, just put over and as a wrestler was normal size, you can get screwed a lot. But Hogan, he would sell like he weighed 125. He'd go down, but then all of a sudden he'd hook up, and you could do anything you want to him, and you couldn't hurt him.
Sure.
Because he was the monster heel. And it wasn't like you was going back to the same club. You might, like on a spot show, you could do that. But hell, on a spot show now, if Piper was working for Hogan, which a lot of times they would do just to give it a practice run to see how the chemistry was and stuff. Now everybody'd have their phone. They'd be posting all the stuff on the internet, and then you had to watch what you was doing. So there's different circumstances on everything.
I mean, when Lawler would pull the strap down, nobody could hurt him either. He wasn't big.
Right, but he had been on longer. It's like
I don't know. I love Piper.
Mm-hmm.
I just, even as a kid, I just never bought Piper being that I don't know, like invincible or tough or whatever. I just didn't.
Well, the heel gets the heat not by being real tough, but by being a chicken shit, no good motherfucker. Either the guy's a monster.
Yeah.
But Piper was a guy that would back up, but when he was a babyface, that son of a bitch was so over. And when he was a babyface, he was a guy that would take them beer bottles and bash them on his head, really, and he'd bust himself open, juice be coming down, everything. Because I remember he did it on Portland, but he did it on Vancouver TV too when I was up there. So I said, God damn, how many TVs you got to do this shit on? He's taking them beer bottles and bashing them in his head and getting cut up and everything. but the people knew he was a whole lot tougher than what he looked.
Big George said, any good Ronnie P. Gossett stories in honor of his birthday? Today must be Ronnie P. Gossett's birthday.
Yeah, I did a little thing on my phone about Ronnie P. But here's Ronnie P. Ronnie P was the legend of Chattanooga wrestling. He was the announcer there. And Ronnie was like 10 years older than me. So if I was 23 when I was there, Ronnie was only 33, but he looked like he was about 49. And he had the big old kayfabe bald spot at the top. And let's just say he was over there, that's for sure. He'd do the Fargo strut when he was announcing and everything. And them old jaws, they'd be flapping in the breeze. But he'd always take me and Randy Savage out to eat at B's buffet. Ronnie was just funnier and fun. And he was Mr. Chattanooga. I remember Kid Lucas was wrestling one night. I can't remember who it was with, but all of a sudden, Ronnie P. Gossett, he was the announcer. He's always and timekeeper, so he's going 5 minutes gone, 5 minutes. And Ken Lucas is already selling. He goes, "Fuck you, Fat Robert. That fuck you, Fat Albert. That's at least 10 gone." So he was making him go twice as long just as a fucking rib. Ronnie P. Gossett, ladies and gentlemen.
That's awesome. All right.
He could do that Fargo strut so good. When he was a baby face, you loved him, but when he was a heel, you hated that son of a bitch. He just loved his wrestling. And yeah, he lived at home. He lived at home with his mom. So what the fuck, right?
He reminds me of Weasel a little bit.
I was going to say exactly right there. Eating mom's food, being a legend, just like the Weasel. And it was an upset when Weasel's baseball team, they probably didn't listen to what he was telling them when he was coaching. That's why they lost the game.
All right. Well, man, we've been on fire with Super Chats today. Getting back to some of the original stuff. Did Dylan send you the video from Grapple Vision they did on Dylan and Joey Janela, and they used our show for it?
I seen it because we had Dylan. Yeah, we had Dylan on. Yeah, I seen something. You're not talking about the long. They talked about it, and what they was talking about, a lot of that shit was shit. They didn't.
Yeah, Grapple Vision put out like a 30-minute video or something.
Okay.
But they used our footage.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And that was yesterday. Because they had over 7 million hits on it when Dylan took it off. Then somebody else put it back on or whatever.
No. I'm not talking about that. That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh.
This is this is a YouTube channel. Did Dylan send you a text with the link?
I don't know.
This would have been, he sent it to me on Sunday. Joey Janela versus Dylan Bostic. It's a whole thing Grapple Vision did. Like on this feud, basically. Like a 30-minute video.
Okay.
I mean, they used a bunch of our footage from it.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
But it didn't, yeah. Anyway.
That was good. There we was, and there was me and you right there, and there was old Dylan. So that was cool.
Let's see. What else we got? Ever work with Wendell Cooley?
Oh, hell yeah. Wendell was a rookie when I was down there in and then he had a brother too, Greg Cooley, the two Cooley brothers.
Huh.
They worked for Ron Fuller, and this was starting in 90, late 93, 94, when I was working for Fuller. And then he eventually became a star there. Wendell was real good, but you had to wait for a place for stardom there because all the Armstrongs was there, the Fullers was there, Jimmy Golden was there. They had a lot of guys that they usually use guys for a long time. It'd be like Joe LeDuc. You could come in there about every 3 years and have a nice year run is what you could do. And
hey, you're screaming baboons here now, Rip, too.
Okay, what's he got to say?
Well, I don't know yet, but we got a super chat question up there.
Okay, then why couldn't you wait till the Frank's Picklebar ass?
I just wanted to let you know he was here, man, in case you were, missing him or something. That's
I
all.
can't. How can you miss them if they never leave?
Frank says $2 super chat from Frank. As always, a very serious wrestling question. In what order would you bang the Golden Girls?
Who's the Golden Girls?
You don't know what?
Huh?
Who's the Golden Girls? You've seen the Golden Girls. These people right here.
Yeah, the ones on the TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to pay me a whole lot of money to even give them the time of day. Get real.
Oh, give us an order. It'd have to be. Surely it would have to be. What's her name? Blanche.
Well, I don't know. You think I watched the Golden Girls on TV?
Yeah, I do.
No, I was busy wrestling.
I think you know who they were. Blanche would have to be number 1. And probably Betty White, Rose, number 2. Then I don't know. I never really liked this lady here. This whatever her name was. But what was her name? Dorothy or no, Sophia? Which I don't know which was which. Dorothy, I think, was this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got the great grandma. I don't know. Blanche and Rose would be 1 and 2, and then I'd give Rip 3 and 4.
Hey, can you you remember what years they were on the nationwide television?
No.
Approximate.
Oops. I don't know.
All I'm saying is, if it was the 80s, I'd be working every night. I wouldn't be there.
Yeah, 85 to 92.
Okay, I wouldn't be there.
You were living in Seymour. You had a TV. You were watching TV in Seymour at that time.
I wasn't there.
You probably recorded it on your VCR.
I would no. Oh yeah, I want to record the Golden Girls. Are you fucking ribbing me?
Good question, Frank. I liked it, even though Rip won't put it over. I
ain't putting that over. I watched the Golden Girls. That was the thing that was bad about. You'd have all these. You're gone at night. When I'm gone last night and I get back, and I got to get up the next day to train and look good, eat right, and whatever, prepare for the next day of wrestling. Don't give me that violin shit.
There's a Screaming Baboon.
Screaming Baboon says Ronnie P. Gossett, whatever, Shawn Michaels, Burnham Durman for a leather jacket. Well, that's probably just innuendo. That's probably just a rumor. And knowing Ronnie, it wouldn't have been a real leather jacket anyway. But I wouldn't put it past him. Yeah, it fell down.
Hey, if you would give me your address, I would send. Your new Indianapolis address.
Mm-hmm.
You're at right now, currently Indianapolis, Indiana. I would send you one of these. I would send you one through Amazon, right? Yeah, I would.
Oh,
I would Amazon it to you. It'd be there by next show.
Yeah.
Look at Widowmaker 67 chiming in here, Rip. Just $20 just out of the kindness of his heart.
Well, he's over. He appreciates me. He appreciates you. He knows you got to put up with me that can't remember stuff and forget stuff, and you show me how to do stuff, and it's still over my head. So I appreciate you. He appreciates you. The whole world appreciates you because they know that you're the guy when Hulk Hogan tried to bully you, when you had to stand security and he was shorter than you and you just told him to basically buzz off. And he said, okay. And he ran. And Hogan ran for him. And everybody knows that. I think that's about the most talked about thing I've ever heard of in my life on the internet. Was how Von Lilas was over.
Shut down the Hulkster.
He shut down the Hulkster, baby.
Anyway, I think it was more for you, but Widowmaker, thank you. Get a question in there, Widowmaker. I'll get there. I'll get to it. Appreciate that though, man. That's awesome. I don't know who this is. We got a new person, maybe. Glocks and Grippers. I don't know if that. Welcome to the show.
What did he say?
I don't know. Rue McClanahan?
Glocks and grippers.
Mm-hmm.
Titties and strippers. I guess it's a rhyme or something. I don't know. Did he have a question?
I don't think so.
But he's over though. Did you mention his name?
I just said it. Glocks and grippers.
Okay, that's a hell of a name.
Yeah. Screamy Baboon said Marty Jannetty told him the leather jacket Sean story.
Well, you think Marty's ever told the truth in his life?
I don't think Marty's ever lied, has he?
Huh?
I think Marty's a pretty honest guy.
Well, but you got to remember, Marty he might have a hard time remembering shit because he was always fucked up.
George said Widowmaker, isn't that Barry Windham? I wonder if that's Barry Windham watching our show today.
Hey, it might be. He might be saying, hey, when are you going to tell that story about you pulling the keys out of the toilet there and made him famous?
Yeah. Tell it.
Let's see. I don't know. Hell, I can't remember what year it was, but we was wrestling in Atlanta. I go in to take a big shizer, and all of a sudden I hear somebody next to me screaming, "God damn motherfucker!" It was Barry Windham. He gets up and opens the thing out, and I said, "Barry, what's the matter?" He goes, "I dropped my keys in the shitter, and he's got turds and stuff in there, right?" He says, "Well, I'm gonna go call and see if I can get my other ones, whatever." So he left to try and do that, and I just went over there and looked in and put my hand in there and pulled them out and washed my hands. And he come back in a couple minutes, and I said, "Here's your keys." He goes, "What'd you do?" I said, "My goddamn, I pulled them out of the toilet." He goes, "Really?" I said, "Barry, I got about 14 dogs, 12 dogs, whatever on my goddamn farm, and they're shitting on the floor all the time. I just pick it up and throw it in the fucking toilet, wash my hands. It ain't no big deal." But then he was so happy, he reached into his pocket, and I think it was $61 he had in my pocket, and he gave it to me. And then Mick Foley stole it and put it in his book, right? Mankind stealing my stories, and I could have told it and whatever, but I guess Mick's book was a whole lot better than mine, so what the fuck, right?
I don't know. Yours isn't out yet. Maybe yours will be way better than Mick's when yours comes out.
Well, I got the one, and I got the number 2 with the number 1 thing, except they got the thing in the square with the extra pages and stuff. So we'll see about what that.
Oh, I'm talking about your new book when you get that.
I don't know. Well, they're having a little infighting with different publishers and stuff, and all of a sudden something was scheduled again, and so I sat there till it was time when I was supposed to do it. There was no text, no call, no nothing, so I just whatever, and then that's been a couple days, so who knows? Maybe it's never going to happen, and you better get them old books.
Try to get something to play here. See.
Capital Plaza Sports main event U.S. Heavyweight Championship match. Gresham Broomfield goes up against the Scoop. In Azale, Kentucky, Thursday, February 11th, 8 p.m. at the old East High School. Liberty, Kentucky, Saturday, February 13th, 8:30 p.m. Liberty Middle School. On Sunday, January 31st, 7 p.m. at the Heritage Washington Center. Randy Macho Man Savage and Hustler Rick Rogers will compete for the coveted title of Mr. Kentucky. The Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno, will be the guest poser and sign autographs. Plus, Master Sin of the Sinte Sports Center will give a spectacular karate demonstration.
How about that, Rip?
Fuck, that's awesome. Where'd you pull that thing up from at?
One of my old ICW tapes.
Oh, man, that's great. I mean, we ran Sinte Sports Center, was where me and Randy and all the boys, we all trained over there. It was way ahead of its years, and they even had a wave pool outside. They were Sin and Sean Tay, and they would teach the different karate things and stuff, and they helped sponsor us for the wrestling show on certain occasions for big events and everything. But that was the place to be, the Sinte Sports Center. And when we had the Mr. Kentucky, the first year we had Lou Ferrigno in, who was hot off the Incredible Hulk thing on TV. And the next year Arnold come in, and Arnold had hit it big because he had his first, The Terminator and some other movies he was in. And we actually outdrew more people. on both of those, when we had the bodybuilding contest, Mr. Kentucky, we outdrew the Mr. Olympia as far as attendance. So in those 2 years, there was like 2,500 people at the smaller setup in Rupp Arena. And at that time, when the Mr. Olympia started, they was lucky to draw 1,000 people because they didn't have the interest and stuff. Because now it's a big deal. But at that time, we had those superstars, and they all had seminars and stuff too. So they made a bunch of money, and that was the place. That was when Arnold I bought Arnold's picture for $29, and I sold him my picture for $40. But he autographed it to me, and I autographed it to him. He basically said I was over because I made him pay more.
Wow, that's awesome.
And he
did it, huh?
I wish I had his money now. Holy moly.
Frank, $2 super chat. How many pairs of Elizabeth's panties did you steal?
I never stole any of hers. Now, with some other girls, I was probably guilty as charged and would go to bed sleeping with the panties on top of me, because that's one of the top 10 things in life if you're a man on this earth. But no, Elizabeth was Randy's girl, and when Randy would have a girlfriend or whatever, he was 100% faithful to her, and he'd probably kill you if you stole her underwear and was wearing it. But anyway, I think that was reserved for him.
Did you ever get any sneak peeks of Elizabeth anywhere, anytime?
No. I had no interest at all.
I just meant like an accident, like
no.
No.
No, at that time, when I first met her, she was heavy, and then
she was heavy.
No,
heavy?
she was heavy. Yeah, and then she had braces on. All she was in her 20s and not fat. So the rest of the stuff you can disguise. You can put in falsies. You can put in. You can wear provocative clothes as long as you're not fat and you're in your 20s. You're half-ass attractive.
Yeah. Let's see. George says, did you call Mildred Burke Millie when you all were a thing?
Mildred Burke. Oh, he's trying to make fun. See, like I was with Mildred Burke and I was wrestling in the 30s. Hell, George was the one that was sniffing. George used to drive the girl wrestlers around because he would take their underwear. He'd actually be driving to the town and he'd be having the underwear over his and sometimes I think he turned it around so it sort of had the shit stains where his nose was at. But he's sort of like a sexual legend. That's why so many women were just attracted to him.
Sexual legend. Let's see here.
As long as they keep coming at me, I'm going to keep fighting. And here the damn wall in the ring was holding me while Ted Walker was working me over. Big boys laying down. I just think got hurt.
Ted's got the mop head.
Yeah.
And here you can see Doug Vines coming into the ring. And
Doug Vines is taking care of the blondes here.
At this point, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if he was helping me or not. You can see he running out of the ring. And it was Rick Rogers about to hit Vines, and I got to him in time, and then I hit. Well, because Sybil Razor, he could be a slave to the grass. I mean, I don't know this guy. Once you be trained on him, once you need help.
Who was Doug Vines? Was he a local guy?
No, he was from Huntsville, Alabama.
Was he?
Uh-huh. He was the pride of Alabama.
Huh.
But he was a good worker. Then they were the Devil's Duo.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
The first Devil's Duo was Angelo Poffo and Chris Markoff, and Bobby Heenan was their manager. This was in the 50s. We had a lot of like rip-off names. We couldn't think of something, so the miser just said, make them the Devil's Duo, because he used to be in the Devil's Duo how many years ago? That's like the Hollywood Blondes when they had the first Hollywood Blondes, and then me and Ted Oates, and then Pillman and Steve Austin. So they had 3 sets of Hollywood Blondes. Of course, that's what Ole said. Oh, just be the Hollywood Blondes. That way, Ole wouldn't have to think about it too much to get a name.
Center of the board, $5 super chat. Southern Wrestling had some of the hottest valets in wrestling. Missy Hyatt, Sunshine, Dark Journey, and of course, Rip's valet. Who was Sunshine?
Oh, that was Jimmy Garvin's cousin.
Really?
Yes, and then after a couple years, he had his wife Patty, and then she was Precious. But it started out with his cousin.
What'd you think of the valets, Rip? Anything?
The valets was really real good for the wrestling business because it was like having a heel manager on the outside. The bad thing about managers is if it was with Memphis, Jimmy Hart would come out 5 times in a row. If he'd go out there one time, he'd have all this heat and whatever, but he would be out there every time, and you get mad. Holy shit, that motherfucker's out here again. But with the valets, if I have a valet, I'm usually the only valet with a guy with a valet in the company, unless one's coming in as a baby face. We work some kind of angle so we can, like Adrian Street and his wife, with stuff like that. But when you got a valet, it's so much easier because you're very unique and you can be a total chicken shit the whole time because that valet is going to help you slip your gimmicks in and out, put your foot on the rope, distract the baby face, distract the heel so you can do something dastardly. So they were just like a guy manager, but it was a female, which made it because you knew the baby face ain't going to punch. Well, Brenda got punched and stuff, and the people loved it. They hated her so much. But most of them, or they'd get spanked, or you'd kiss them, and it's another kind of match, and it made my match even easier, and it stuck out even more because I basically, except when I was working against Adrian Street, I was the only guy with a valet.
Thank you, center of the board. Look at that. We got a $9.99 super sticker from Billy Ray Dollar, Rip.
Shit, it don't get any better with BRD, Billy Ray Dollar.
BRD, if you got a question, throw it in there. Get the question in there. We got Jason Duhamel said, hello, Mark. Hope you're doing well, brother.
Yeah, he used to work with me out at Amazon.
Oh, all right.
Big, great, loves his great wrestling fan.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Well, get your question in here, Jason. Sunshine was a Spitfire little spinner. Whatever that means, Dave. Spitfire, little spinner. Hot? Was she hot?
Well, she was in her 20s and had bleached blonde hair and dressed up nice. And if you're the only girl sitting there in the whole crew, right? All of a sudden you're super beautiful. And all the pre-adolescent boys are thinking about her at night.
Dave Channel said Dark Journey was his secret crush as a kid.
Don't tell Dick Slater, he beat your ass.
I would cut out Dick Slater in the Dirt Sheets magazine picture spread with just to have Dark Journey.
Oh, God. That's awesome.
Frank's Pickle Barrel asks, give us some love to center of the board.
Frank's Pickle Barrel asks, baby.
That's right. Thank you, Frank, for thanking center of the board. Keeping this show going after 3.5 years. Wasn't for people like center of the board, Rip, we wouldn't be able to keep doing this stuff, you know?
No, COB's over with me.
COB.
Yeah, center of, but you don't put, the Cobb.
Big George. So the Mark Magnus, I don't know if you ever watched those. I'm sure you don't. You don't watch TV and all that good stuff. You'd say Dark Side of the Rings, Rip. So they just did a Muhammad Hassan Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, I saw clips. I saw clips of it. So
any Mark Magnus stories? What's your take on Mark Magnus?
Yeah, I had him at OVW, and he was a good athlete, looked good, real coordinated, was not a smart ass, educated. He was really good. He could do all these basics. He was a big backdrop man too. But when he got the chance to have that job, he would have been figured in. Well, that thing was so hot, but then all the people of the world made so much a big deal about it, of giving him the negative shit, that and they didn't even have internet then, did they?
Oh yeah, they had internet.
But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have known, or stuff like that. But he would have been set. He could have had that heel run for about 8 years. Then they could have turned him babyface for a couple of years, and then turned back. And he would have made so much money, because he was over so much as a heel. When they turned him babyface, he'd be so much over as a babyface. I can just see him coming out, burning his flag and having the USA everything, and then returning back and whatever. But Mark Capone, yeah, he ended up being a very successful, I think it was high school principal, whatever.
Yeah, he still is. He's still in education, either principal, superintendent, something like that.
So he made it in the real world, but it would have been a whole lot more fun of having the memories of doing all that shit. So he was a guy that got screwed over big time, but he still was a big success in life, and that's all you can say about it.
I'm trying to find a picture of him. I mean, yeah, I mean, you go from, I mean, on TV like that, I think his last angle was with The Undertaker. I mean, he got called up real quick.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, especially relatively speaking, and then pushed to the main event pretty much, and then just done. Just done.
And instead of putting him under a hood for a while with long tights or different stuff, where he could still have employment, and then they could figure something out for him, 3 years from now, and they wouldn't even have thought it was him or whatever, with a different look or whatever. Hell, they just fired him. That's fucking bullshit.
Man, I had a picture with him. I was his partner or something one night. Can't find it. Oh, here it is. You can't even tell it's him, though, really.
Well, we don't look the same as we did how many years ago?
Well, it's just a real bad dark picture, but that's him way before he was as jacked as he was. But that's me and him, and big tag team partners one night.
Holy shit. You was on fire then, wasn't you?
Oh, yeah. I could have been the next, whatever he was, Arab.
Yeah. You'd have been the Arab giant or whatever. No, you'd have took Khali's job, but you could actually walk, so that wouldn't be any good.
Frank wants to know for $2, better ass, Bo or Luke Duke? He said Luke or Bo Duke. Nobody says Luke or Bo Duke, Frank. It's Bo or Luke Duke. Isn't that right, Rick?
Who's Bo or Luke?
You're going to act like now you don't know who the Duke boys are, Dukes of Hazzard?
I didn't watch the Dukes of Hazzard.
Come on. You're going to act like it was like the biggest show on TV for the history of TV, and you're going to act like you've never heard of it.
Okay, I'm going to tell you this one more fucking time. I did not watch fucking television at night because I was wrestling, traveling to there, coming back. I didn't give a shit about that stupid TV shit.
You don't have to act like you've never heard of them or seen them.
Well, I mean, why didn't he just say the Dukes of Hazzard guys? I didn't know
ask him. He's the one that did it. Poor Frank. Don't be so mean to Frank, man. It's a $2 super chat. You've never heard of Bo and Luke Duke, so you couldn't put it together that Bo and Luke Duke are
the only thing I remember about the Dukes of Hazzard is the guy who played Mr. Darlin on Beverly Hillbillies, right?
Yeah.
But the Darlings, that was from that was in the early 60s in the black and white TV. So that's what but I didn't watch primetime TV or any of that.
You're at least acknowledging now that you know who the Dukes of Hazzard is. And
you got to remember. You'll ask me, if I would have known it, I'd have to think and rethink. Then I'd start to tell it to you. And in the 1 second I'm trying to tell it to you, I'm forgetting the son of a bitch again. Now, if he'd have said Dukes of Hazzard, I would have got it. Because see, I can't read the Luke or Duke thing hardly because it's real little thing, and I'm pretty much blind. But if he said the Dukes of Hazzard, I would immediately thought about the old man, whatever the fuck.
The Darlin.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the Andy Griffith show.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Uncle Jesse was his name on
Okay.
the Dukes of Hazzard. Now, I was a big fan of Daisy Duke. Surely you're not going to pretend you don't know who Daisy Duke was, are you?
Well, I didn't watch it, but that was the girl I saw on the posters. Had the nice slick cut jeans and stuff, would show the big titties and the cheeks out almost and everything. That's her, the blonde.
Well, she wasn't. I think she
Sort
had
of
more brown hair.
Well,
You must have been. You must have been wrestling at that time.
Well, I should have been wrestling at that time. You got to remember, I'm 20 some years older than you.
20 exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I
20
always
years.
tell you though, it's like me not knowing who the Beatles are. Oh well, I don't. I mean, you got to remember, I'm 20 years younger than you. I don't know who the Beatles are.
The Beatles are the most iconic band ever.
Right. So are the Duke Boys.
No, I ain't buying that. No, they ain't going on the Ed Sullivan show. Starting out, She Loves You in black and white, and I'm getting into it, and all of a sudden my dad comes in and turns the TV off because it was 8:05, and I was supposed to be in bed at 8.
Look at that picture, me getting ready to beat up John Cena, man.
Well, somebody needed to. He's been beating up everybody.
Yeah, I had him right there. That's the night I beat John Cena, fair and square.
And I think, don't they have it in that town where you was teaching at? And they have, as soon as you walk into the town, it says that this is where Von Lilas beat John Cena. It had the date and everything.
Yeah,
I
home of the legendary Von Lilas.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Muncie, I got G-Force sent me some pictures.
Holy shit, G-Force, baby.
Yeah, sent me some pictures of like him and his daughter from his daughters when they were real young, coming to watch the Muncie shows forever ago. Can't believe it. They're like in their 30s now. Made me feel old, Rip. Made me feel old.
I was gonna say you must be an old bastard, you. Well, hell, if you're an old bastard, I'm fucking shit, I should have been dead years ago. What the hell, right?
Jason said Denver Pyle was Uncle Jesse. Is he related to Gomer Pyle?
No, that's right. It was Denver Pyle of the Darlings, but he ain't related to Gomer Pyle. Gomer Pyle is a fictitious terror. That's Jim Neighbors. Shazam! Hooty hoo, hooty hoo.
That's right, 70QQ. Vaughn, you need to act like you never heard of Andy Griffith since we weren't alive when it was on prime time. That's right. I never heard of Andy Griffith. Yeah.
Well, I can understand.
Like, you got to remember, I wasn't born yet. Andy Griffith. How would I know who Andy Griffith is?
Yeah, because when I'm watching it, I'm 10 years old.
Well, when you bring up Andy Griffith's show, and I don't sit there and act like, who's Andy Griffith? I've never heard of Andy Griffith before.
Well, Andy Griffith was on the goddamn reruns on Channel 4 for how many goddamn years, you know?
So were the Dukes of Hazzard.
No, that they was over too much as a big time thing.
Okay. Does Rip know who Farrah Fawcett was?
Shit, my sister had the big old Farrah Fawcett picture in her bedroom when she was on, and I was always hey, one of my buddies was Mike Miller, BT, who was Mr. Teenage Kentucky, and his best friend was Lee Majors' son, and he lived in Lexington. But that was cooler than shit because Lee Majors was the $6 million man, and the thing with was married to what's her face there, the one. But I used to sneak in there, and let's say I would touch myself sort of when I would see that picture and stuff, or sneak into my bedroom and whatever, and think about Farrah Fawcett. But what the hell? I was a young boy. What, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm a little confused why your sister had a poster of Farrah Fawcett and not you. I would think you would have the.
No, I wouldn't buy no stupid picture like that and put it up. No, it was in her room, so I had to go across the hall and look.
But why? It seems like she would have. Maybe. Never mind.
Well, Farrah Fawcett was a movie star.
Well, yeah, but I would. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
G-Force watched last week, so I'm going to pull this picture up in case he's watching it again this week. There's the two daughters. He sent me the picture of. Look at Vaughn Live. That's an old Muncie show. Man, look at that baby face. God, I was young.
Shit, that don't even look like you. What do you weigh? 150 pounds, it looks like?
I was shredded, Rip. No.
Oh, you must have been real shredded.
I bet I was about 200, though, or maybe less. 195, 200. Ish.
Yeah. Long legs, long arms.
Yeah.
Sort of like what's her face and fights with Kaylin Clark. What's her name? The one that's always causing the trouble. The one can't dribble or shoot or pass or do anything.
Angel Reese.
Yeah. When she runs, she reminds me of a colt being born. She can hardly run and stuff. But what a gimmick she is. The most obnoxious, thinking she's fucking hot, putting herself fucking over. She knows how to make money, and people I would tune into her games just to see her, because she's so rotten, which is awesome. When she can't,
shots she can miss.
She
like 32% or something this year.
Yeah, but when she get all them rebounds, she get 12 rebounds. They say, yeah, but 8 of them were off on your own misses. Yeah. And then she'd just be dribbling down and she'd pick the ball up, and they would. Every once in a while they'd call it for, but she can't dribble. She can't do any. Well, she can play defense and rebound, but everything else, whew. But she's over, so she knows how to do something right. That's for damn sure.
See, that's the same reason I used to tell you I watched AEW, just because it was just so rotten. It was almost funny.
Yeah,
and
I
entertaining
can
to
see
watch.
that now, because if you like Angel, you pay to see her. But if you think she's so rotten, it's a hell of a rib. You're right on that now. So, but I can't take it personal, because it was hard for me to watch the AEW because of just of how AEW was. Of course, if Tony wants to give me a job, I'll still go there. Yeah, and I'll just take the money like everybody else. But it's hard to watch. Now, if I didn't know anything, it'd be easy. Just do whatever.
Do you know these guys, Rip?
Who
found this in my photo album? It's from one of your shows that I was at, or Bruiser's show, or somebody's show at the Armory. Dad, Duke, yeah, they're the little people. Duke's the daddy on the back of one. Is the other one's got to be Wee Willie, doesn't it?
It looked like it was Wee Willie, but I think the Duke's the daddy. That would have been Major Duke George. That was Johnny Shorn, the inevitable Johnny Shorn, who wrestled for or refereed for Bruiser. He was a 7-Up man. Was his real job.
Oh, really?
And I said, Johnny, bring me in some. So he'd give you some 7. He'd have some free 7-Up whenever I go to the Expo Center for me. But Johnny Shorn, he was like like a heel. Him and Bob Wingo were the heel referees. The baby faces lost a lot, but whenever Connie Marker come out, you knew he was the babyface, or he was the babyface wrestler. And Connie Marker would even give away pictures of him counting to 3 or something. He's posed and everything. He had his own fucking years ago, when you'd go to the matches, there'd be Paul Christie signing with his back to that. So he was a baby face, and then Baron Von Raschke would be heel, and he's not paying any attention. There's no people with him. And then they would call them together for the instructions and stuff. But the baby face was always signing autographs before the match. But Connie Marker, he'd pull his billfold out, and he'd actually have a card, and it said "Good luck, Connie," where he had it was written on. It wasn't written on there, but you know how you run them off. He had 500 of the cards of "Good luck, Connie Marker," and him posing with the thing. So he was the baby face one. How we got into that, I don't know. But if you're a history guy about Channel 4 wrestling, you would know who all those guys were.
Channel 4 wrestling, that's right. You're so wild. That's what all my wrestlings went by. Channel 3 wrestling, Channel 4 wrestling.
And that's what you called it, Channel 3 wrestling or Channel 4 wrestling.
Yeah. Then I had one more picture from that night. Well, I had a couple more, but one more I was going to show from that night. Tonight.
That's handsome and Wilbur Schneider.
Yeah. Love his tights. Tonight. Why is he? What's that mean? Tonight.
What's that?
Did it say what? Did it say something else on the other leg? On his tights, it says tonight vertically.
I don't know. Jimmy had when Jimmy got them, all them. I was with him. He'd say, what would be cool to whatever? Because he had, this is when on one pair of trunks, he had night fever. Remember the John Travolta movie?
Mm-hmm.
With the disco movie, but the big song was Night Fever.
Yeah.
And he had night, and then he had Lay Down Sally on the back of some of his trunks, because they got all his trunks and gimmicks and shit from Carl and Hildegard. Lay Down Sally. Holy shit. Only Boogie could do that.
What else we got? Frank said I was working chopper. Never heard of Thaz. I don't know what that means.
Heard of what?
Thaz, Thaz. I don't know. Maybe I said something to Frank, or I don't know. I haven't really been in the chat. Let's take a look at the chat. It doesn't look like we're missing any super chats. There's a super sticker I think I did from George. Rip is enraged by television.
I don't.
He knew all about Night Fever though, somehow.
Well, that was the movie.
Must have saw movies during the day then, huh?
That was Saturday Night Fever. You had to go to the theater and see it and pay for it.
Well, how did you do that when you were wrestling all the time?
Well, I wasn't even wrestling then.
You weren't?
No.
Just taking the night off?
I was just starting.
Oh, I see. So that was it, man. That was the last of your movies. Saturday
hey, I haven't been to a movie, because the only time I went with Marcus, I'd have to take him to the Harry Potter movies and stuff, because I wasn't going to go to movies and buy all that shit because it cost too much.
Shane Parks in green. Ever wrestled Tor Kamato? Who's that? Did I say that right?
Yeah, Tor Kamata, he was a big time Jap wrestler, or Hawaiian or Oriental, whatever you want to cut. Let's see, I'm trying to think who I worked for WWF. It was Mr. Fuji and I think it was Tor Kamata. No, it wasn't Tor Kamata. I can't think of the other guy. Had the big the other guy that was he was a movie star too. But it wasn't Tor Kamata. But Tor Kamata, he's just old Japanese wrestling heel that'd been around for years and years and years. Never wrestled him though.
Dave said we should do a live about me and you together in OVW.
Who said that?
Dave's channel.
Well, what are we going to do? I can't remember nothing. You'd have to remind me.
I don't remember half of it.
Well, so you can imagine what I remember. And I was there how many goddamn years, right? I said, fuck, I can't remember.
Rip, I showed my mom your picture. She says you're a handsome man with the beard. Then without the beard.
How old's your mom?
How old's your mom, Dave? And is she rich?
Yeah.
She likes you better with the beard, I think, is what he's getting at.
Well, you know.
Screaming Baboon says, Rip, did you ever meet Rollerball Rocco? Ever see him wrestle live?
No. When I was in England in '92 for a cup of coffee, and I wrestled with England. If I'd have met him, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known who the hell he was to begin with at that time. He was a big star over there, but I can't remember him in the dressing room. But I was most of the guys I didn't know there. Regal would introduce me to him and stuff.
Center of the board, $5 super chat. They can talk about Hansen all they want, but Tojo Yamamoto and Ivan Koloff were the best foreign menaces of all time. Oh, Hassan, not Hansen. Sorry, Hassan. Tojo and Ivan Koloff, foreign menaces. What do you think about that, Rip?
Well, Ivan was, he got all that mileage being Russian, but he was really French-Canadian from Montreal. So that was a good rib. And in Tojo, he had a good run, but Tojo only been a few places in his life because he homesteaded with Nick Goulas and Jerry Jarrett. He lived in Nashville for at least 40 years with this and that. Tojo was really small. He'd wear them
sandals that
Well, the wooden shoes, he'd clunk you with them. Hell, I bet he was about 5'7" without him. And then he would crouch way down. But he was a good worker, and he knew about all psychology and everything. But he didn't travel that much. So these guys that traveled, there's the one that had the big names. They're the one that
throw Iron Sheik in there, don't you?
What's that?
You got to throw the Iron Sheik in there, don't you?
Yeah, Sheik was awesome. Sheik was so awesome. Hell, he was a United States Olympic coach in wrestling for the Americans. That's what was so funny.
Right, but I'm talking about foreign menaces. Wouldn't you have to throw the Sheik in there as one of the best?
Oh yeah. The Sheik was. Oh, shut up! Do not say USA. Sheik was over with that, and it was good with Sheik because at the time WWE was big time, and Sheik was on there, especially was on there as a champion, so Sheiky baby made that big money, and he was over worldwide.
I know what you're saying about Tojo, but I do agree. Tojo, for me, since I got to see him in Memphis or on Channel 3 wrestling all the time.
Yeah.
I thought Tojo was I thought he was evil, pure evil.
Until he turned babyface, and then he would smile a little bit.
Let's see. Shane Parks, ever wrestled Tiger Chung Lee?
No, I was on some shows with him. And that was one of the other guys I was thinking about. I seen some pictures of him the other day of Tiger Chung Lee. But no, I was never actually in the ring with him there. But I know who he is, and we met before. I know that because a lot of times he'd just show up at different towns. I can't remember what state he was living in at that time. But he was good.
Favorite 3-man tag team, Rip?
I couldn't name you one right now unless you had the Valiants for Dick the Bruiser years ago.
Mine was the Freebirds.
Okay, they was the most established, put it that way. And the match would be good if Terry was working and Buddy Roberts was working, and but Mike was great to get heat, whether they were baby faces or heel or to get the team going. Mike was a genius at fucking wrestling, but as a worker, his shit he was rotten. But he knew how to make fun. He was a smart guy. Hell, he's been with WWE for, I bet almost 30 years. And he was strictly an NWA guy from Pensacola. So when you worked the NWA, you worked one style, and then WWE or the WWF was a different style of wrestling. So he sure as hell adapted, learned to kiss ass and do whatever it needed to do to keep a fucking job. So I ain't mad at him, but he was the first guy. I remember one night I was working with him in the Omni, and he was a baby face. So he'd do a spot, and he'd moonwalk all the time. So then I'd stop him and I'd try and moonwalk. Of course, I couldn't do it. And then he ended up beating me when I was trying to moonwalk.
Big George wants to know if you ever worked around Sherry Martel.
Oh my God, Sherry. Oh yeah. I remember, I think she might have been the valet of Booker T and his brother, I'm thinking. But I remember I started talking some serious shit with her in the dressing room. She started blushing. She goes, "You're too much for me. I'm scared of you." Because she was just sexier than hell.
Yeah, I liked her. Were Tanaka and Fuji really Japanese?
I don't know if they were Japanese, or I don't know exactly what they were. Because a lot of times, hell, I remember they had, I remember in Mississippi, we had a guy that was Hispanic, and he was, but he portrayed a Japanese. So a lot of them, they weren't exactly, a lot of the Russians, they weren't from Russia, but they were from one of the countries that didn't speak goddamn English. So you can say where you're from, and that's like they'd have Roddy Piper from Scotland. He opened his mouth one syllable, and you knew he wasn't from Scotland. He was from goddamn Winnipeg, Canada.
I don't know what Screaming Baboon's talking about. He said, "Hey, I'm number 3. I'm moving up for nothing." George, why are you number 2? Now you're number 1. This is rigged. I don't know what that means.
How would I know?
I don't know.
Is he talking?
Patrick Young, $9.99 super chat though. I know what that means. Once again, thank you, Rip, for all you've done for wrestling, and thank you, Vaughn, for production on the show.
Hey, first of all, this is all Vaughn Lilas. He does the production at his house. He does all the editing. He spends a lot of money on putting this product out to you. All I do is I'm lucky to get on here without pushing a button or saying something wrong or whatever. Without him, Wrestling with Rip Rogers would not be. Without his expertise, there would be no Wrestling Rip Rogers. Without him, how Clint has to babysit his kids in 2 and lock them in the other room, but I won't say that, this and that. Without him, there would be no Wrestling Rip Rogers. So I'm saying this now in my I can remember this right now. I probably won't later on. But if we get any numbers and the good times we have on here, and he brings it out of me and he babysits me, and he shows me how to do this stuff, and unfortunately, I can't remember it. So anyway, when I croak, it's going to be it's going to be the Vaughn Lilas show. So
no, and the show will be over when you croak. The show is done.
No, it'll be with special guest, the King. No,
I'll say what you say. What do I owe you money or what? What do you?
No, but I was just thinking about the first when Vince McMahon bought Atlanta and Gordon Soley went on TV. I can't remember if it was that or when Crockett bought it. All of a sudden, Gordon Soley was there, and I think it was Tony Schiavone's first week or whatever. And they said, "Well, Gordon's on vacation. He'll be back in 2 weeks." And then Gordon never came back.
Yeah, I agree with Frank. Chopper deserves Miss Texas. Yep.
Yeah, he does. I just want to watch.
Best Indian wrestler you've ever worked with?
Best Indian?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I'd have to go Wahoo. I'm trying to think if there's any other. I wrestled with some other one down with Nick Golis, and he had his drummer boy Chewy. He'd get paid $20 for doing the drum dun 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 dun. And I think Billy Red Cloud from years ago, and he was really half Indian. But I'd have to go with Wahoo McDaniel, because Wahoo McDaniel was such a stud. He was so respected. Hell, he played middle linebacker in the National Football League for I don't know how many years. Everybody knew Wahoo, and Wahoo would yell, cuss, and scream, and he'd be drunk half the time anywhere. But he was one of those. He was a fair guy. If he said he was going to use you, he would use you to where he was at, and then he would. If you needed a job somewhere else when he was finishing up, he'd bust his balls to get you another job. So for my vote, it's Wahoo McDaniels. That's all there is to it.
All right. Well, Rip, I think this show's coming to a close, but center of the board said not yet. $5 super chat. Can you talk about the great Skandar Akbar?
Okay, little Jimmy Weber, that was his name. He was the fullback from Garland, Texas.
Really?
Skandar Akbar, the little fullback, Jimmy Weber from Garland, Texas. Sometimes when we was in wrestling in Louisiana for Bill Watts, he'd spend the night at my house because he could either spend $29 at the cheap motel there, or he could spend the night with me for free, sleep on my couch, and then my old lady would shave his back because he had that real hairy back and everything. And he'd always buy a $1 watermelon and bring that over. So that as a rib, she started cutting the hair in his back so it looked like it was the mange and shit. That was a rib. But Akbar was a hell of a guy. You would like him, and he was like pencil in. He could always work Dallas all the time. Dallas or Watts, he was just a shoe in because he was such a good pro. He'd been a booker for Watts years ago. But that's little Jimmy Weber from Garland, Texas, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you ever find it like weird looking back on like Oh, like Skandar Akbar slept on my couch, or I slept on Kamala's floor, or rode in the car with Bundy and the Samoa. You know, you ever look back and just think of all those characters that you stayed with, or stayed with you, or rode with, and I just think it's wild. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it is. And until we start talking about something, I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And when you go to different different territories, I started thinking about now where was the meeting spot there? Like when we was in Atlanta, we all stayed at Delilah Bell's. We called it Miss T's, and all the boys stayed there. There would be there'd be Tony Anthony. There'd be the other Dirty.
Ah, he was on a roll. We did so good today. Well, we made it through most of the show today without Rip leaving, so that was a plus. We were getting ready to leave anyway. Now he's really off the show. Now he's totally gone. Oh, maybe. I don't know if he could have died, maybe. Well, we were going to wrap up anyway, so what the hell? Thanks, everybody. Let me give a shout out to some of you guys, though, man. We had a great super chat today. Center of the board, of course, dominated the board today. That was awesome. A lot of contributors, though. Shane Parks in the house. Patrick Young, Gregory Mala, George, Big George. More center of the board. Big George again. Frank, Pickle Barrel Ass.
I'm back.
Frank's again. Center of the board. Billy Ray Dollar, Big George, Frank. Center of the board. Patrick Young. Center of the board. I'm reading all the super chats off today, Rip. We had a lot of them in there today. So,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I had
Screamy Baboon said you got to go pleasure yourself to the Golden Girls. That's where you were at.
Yeah. Okay. I can't remember that. Hey, I had a couple things to talk about here, but I guess we didn't have to.
What do you got? What do you got to talk about?
No, I was just talking about, about the Pacers, how they're going to have to play tomorrow and be in the NBA finals, this and that, and how Joker got screwed on his averaging a triple-double, the greatest season he's ever had, and they give it to that Shea Gilgeous Alexander, whatever, who flops just like LeBron, but he weighs 160. But I guess they got the best team anyway because they won 68 games in the regular season. But I'm going to be for the Pacers, and the Pacers are going to beat them if they get in there. Then, let's see. What was on my list? The Screaming Baboon. We put him over today. Renee called me today. Renee's all frustrated with he was wrestling somebody, and somebody broke his neck or whatever. So he's
broke
all
Renee's
upset.
neck?
No, not his, but one of the guys or whatever. And he was talking about how shitty guys are and they're dangerous. I said, well, what the hell do you expect? You can't wrestle 4 times a month and be any good. You got to get in that ring every day. Oh, then I don't know if you saw it, but did you see the thing where Bully Ray was on the internet when they had that WWE show, whatever it is, and he's bollocking because they got jewelry on?
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Oh, but it's obviously a plant thing because Bully Ray always wore jewelry in the ring. The necklaces, the fucking, all that shit, right?
Yeah.
And he was bollocking his kid. Of course, it's all scripted. You can tell all that. But then I did something, and I took a picture of his thing and I sent it. And of course, he was always doing that. So that's funnier than shit.
So what's your Pacer prediction? They going to win tomorrow night?
Well, they better win tomorrow night, or the odds are going to go way down.
What do you think? You think they win?
Well, I don't know. I'm hoping they win tomorrow for sure. Yeah. They should. That's I said, well, hell, they just want to win at the home is what they want to do.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the hell we'll see what happens on that. But that the game before when what's his face was on fire and then he did the choke sign and Reggie Miller was announcing that was the greatest shit right there. If you're an old Pacer fan, that is.
Yeah, it's all going to be for naught though if they don't win.
Right. If not, well, it's something to talk about later on.
Yeah. All right, Rip. Well, hey, next week get that list out. We'll get through your list first. We'll make sure we get through your notes and your list.
Well,
stuff to talk about.
well, if I'm still around, this could always be the last show. So
You've been saying that for years.
yeah, and
You're not buying it.
I guess
You're
it
not buying
eventually,
it. That's what the end is.
eventually it comes true, right?
Well, eventually, I guess, if you keep saying it.
Yeah.
Hey, next week, let's talk 80s. Let's talk some more 80s sitcoms next week. We'll see what Rip knows. Maybe some Dallas or Different Strokes, or we'll figure something out that Rip liked from the 80s.
I remember Who Shot JR, and that's about it.
Sue Ellen.
Well, I didn't watch none of that stuff.
Okay. All right, go Pacers. Get this, let's see, this music that Rip can't hear. Where's it at? There we go.
Is it playing?
It's playing. Everybody have a good weekend. Get the head bob even if you don't hear it. Thanks
Okay,
for all the super chats.
I don't
Thanks
hear
for
it.
joining us today. I don't know how you don't hear the music. You
Well, it's not-
Here?
It's not playing. I guess
It is
on
playing
here.
real loud. Can anybody else hear the music? Right now. Get ready. Big gold. Sing it. There. You hear that now?
No.
That I can't get the shit closed. So I money fold.
I can hear you talking.